Okay, guys, I have been waiting to record this episode with Laura Foster for months, literally. When we jumped onto her podcast, The Soul Inspired Girl, which you'll find a link in the bio in connection with her podcast, we riffed out and had this beautiful energy. And over the last 6 months, we've been really cultivating our relationship. We both live here in Costa Rica. We work out together. We are in a space of alignment. We've done numerous different spiritual experiences together, and we are just getting started in our life as friends. And this podcast, I was like, I felt it. I'm like, I really want you to come on for episode 50. We couldn't make it work for timing. So episode 52 is coming out at you. Light Warriors Unleashed podcast with Laura Foster. Now, this woman is beautiful. She's done multiple things in her life. She runs retreats consistently throughout the year all over the world. She was a chiropractor for 25 years and still does a little bit of that energetic management here in Costa Rica as well every so often. She's a breathwork facilitator. She's a yoga instructor. She's a beautiful being of light and expansion. She does one-to-one coaching with clients and really moving these women through the sovereign pathway. She's also involved in financial sovereignty and helping people really align in gold and silver and get into mechanisms that allow them to hold energy of sovereignty in their financial structures. And overall, she's just a beautiful, beautiful person to know. And I am just so grateful that I found her on Instagram, got to connect with her here in Costa Rica, and that I get to do a part of my life with her in this, personal experience that we get to create. We're the two together that I'm like, this will probably be crazy. And she's like, I'm in. And she sends me a message. I think I want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, I'm always down for that. She's like, that's why I sent you that message. And I was like, okay. Like drumming ceremonies, circles, creating activations, helping clear the land, step into the real root of humanity and who we are in the human collective world. So I am just so grateful to share Laura's energy with you today in a beautiful expanded experience that we had together. We talk about sovereignty, we talk about flow, paying attention in our lives, how it's shown up for us, what it's showing up like in the collective, some key concepts for you to be able to step in to hold your own truth and feel that in your body and really discover yourself through this conversation about where you may be limiting your own pathways and how that's showing up for you. So with no further ado, Laura Foster, episode 52, Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. Okay, I think that Laura and I have had like multiple podcast episodes recorded every single time we get together in life. And I'm so excited that we hit record on this one and that we get to talk to other people instead of just the conversations that we have within our own energies. But welcome, Laura, to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm curious if we are actually as funny to everybody else that we think we are to each other. Who knows?
Sure,
we'll see.
Not. Yeah, I know.
I'm sure we're not.
Be like, disconnect. I do not want to subscribe to this podcast any longer.
But I hope that's not the case.
I'm just totally kidding. And if they don't get my humor by episode 52, then there's something wrong with the energy here because they've been growing with me. A lot of people have been around for a long time. So grateful for you guys for being here listening. And Laura and I are going to jam out today. Where we're going to go, we have no idea, which is absolutely perfect. And I just love all the things about that. But you and I have been floating into these conversations lately, especially the one about paying attention. And I've been using, because you announced it on social when you broke your arm or fractured it or whatever we ended up doing with it in reality, about this vibration moving through you, about paying attention. And I've been using that story to really emphasize points with people in my programs and stuff, that how important it was for me to hear it from you, but also for you to hear it in the field of. So I'd love for you to just touch on what this feels like. Most people don't know you broke your arm on here. So maybe like start with kind of that, or I don't know, wherever you kind of want to go. Yeah.
It was a personal message and it was a collective message. So 10 or 11 days ago, I don't know, time's not really real, but let's just say like last week at some point, I was doing one of those things where you're multitasking because you think you can. So at one point I was sending a voice note on my phone and noticed our 11-month-old 90-pound Rottweiler was chewing on some sort of construction board. And so my brain decided that probably wasn't a good idea. So I made my way over there in the flip-flops and I picked up the board and I gave it a little hoof off to the side, which was the trigger to the Rottweiler that we're now going to play catch. And he was tied to one of those wires, that are like pushed into the ground, and he took off like a freaking rocket and essentially hog-tied me by my ankles, and I went flying up in the air on the concrete, and I put my left hand out and everything went flying. And in that moment, as I was laying on the ground, I had like a lightning bolt, Colleen. It was like a lightning bolt. It came through and it was pay attention, pay the fuck attention. And then it was something to the effect, because I don't have the exact words, but I'll share it. You weren't given these gifts to continue to walk around like you're half asleep. Boom. So
Yeah.
I, kind of pulled myself together, if you call it that, and like limped my way back into the house and realized my arm was broken. And all of that to say, it has been days, and it's getting much better, but there has been days of really recognizing that you ask for messages, you ask for messages, you ask for messages. And then when they come, they have to come in the form and the potency that you can actually receive it. Frick. That's the fucking good news and the bad news. I do ask for my messages to come in the most benevolent way possible. So I truly trust that that is actually true. It could have been much worse. But yeah, I've been sharing the message.
Yeah. And it's been interesting because we were sitting the day before, I think, out by your pool. And you were telling me this because I was saying to you, why did I create this visceral experience of this like dynamic stuff that happened to me? And you're like, I always ask for it in the most
benevolent way possible.
benevolent way. And then I get the message from you Friday morning, and I'm like, is this benevolent? And you're like, I don't know if this is benevolent. So this is what you said to me on the voice note.
And then later I was like, this was benevolent. It could have been so much more. And it did, like I said, it bears repeating that I knew the message was for me, clearly. But I also knew that I would share it in some way, shape, or form with the people and the places that I felt called to share. And if you're that person that is listening to this right now and your message, and you know it, because you feel when a message is for you, is to pay the fuck attention, not because I'm saying you're going to get hurt, because it's important. I will backtrack and say that I have had tons of activation in the last few months. I am in some ways not even the same person that I was 3 months ago. I intuitively, and I mean, just in so many ways, I can just see, hear, touch in. I'm so much more dialed in. And I wouldn't say I'm not paying attention, but I would say I was paying attention like I was before these gifts were activated within me. And that's the difference.
So fun.
Yeah. So fun, Colleen.
And I consider myself to be a pretty tapped in person. And you know that about me too. And for me in my situation, not to be listening either, where I was like, I got the hits a couple months ago, right? The couple months ago, those hits came in, like, you should be considering this, and this is moving through your field. And I was like, yeah, something's going on. You need to start to shift some energy. And then all of a sudden, it's the same thing. It was like whack. And it was like, yo, are you paying attention now? Like, are you actually awake? Like, this has to happen now. And like I said to you today, I was like, since like the move happened and, my realignment of energy and me really stepping in, all of these things are starting to drop. And I went, oh, because I had to be in a new position of energy to be able to see it, feel it, hear it, and literally be able to hold it. Because my capacity at the other location or within a certain energy field was limited. Not because of anything, but it just was. So I needed the shift and the movement of that to kind of maneuver stuff through. Right. So interesting. Yeah.
And it comes so fast and furious right now. I had a client that I was talking to yesterday, and, we were just covering off some stuff that was going on with her. And she was kind of in this place like, why is this happening right now? And so we started kind of moving through that pay attention message. And she was like, she could see it. She could
Yeah.
just, as soon as she dropped into that idea of like, what am I supposed to be paying attention to? All of a sudden she can see, just like you, where these messages that actually had been dropping for a bit,
Yeah.
but she really wasn't, she wasn't connecting into what they meant. Or if she was, she wasn't acting upon them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think the activation and the expansion and what's coming through for you is happening in such an accelerated way that I feel like you have to lean in, more than ever.
Hmm. And
And
today I was in this concept in a masterclass I was teaching about when the hit comes in, now we've almost got to analyze the hit. It's like, is this a now hit? Like, is this like, do I need to pay attention now? Is this something that's coming that it's in my field so I can be prepared? Or is this like a long-term thing that I need to start kind of moving some energy into? And those three dimensions, my whole body's like goosebumping out as I say this out loud. Like, I think those three dimensions are now so relevant because sometimes we think, oh, well, I'll deal with that later when it's like, oh, no, 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 like it's happening, like it's now, right? And I'm sure with your client, like if that was a concept in her mind, like
right.
she would be feeling this or hitting on this or whatever the energy is inside of that space.
That's true. I love that. And this is actually what I love so much about not just having conversations with you, but conversing about this shit in general is that when you hear something like that, you're like, oh, that's true. That's so true. And where have I ignored that in my own life? And how can I like pick it up a little bit? I don't feel like we need to go faster. I actually feel we just need to be more conscious. And sometimes that actually looks like going slower.
Yeah.
But it definitely involves a whole hell of a lot of no's and really big discernment about what is really needing and requiring your attention and your focus right now. And can you let go of the stuff that was maybe even a hell yes for you at one point? But if you were to ask yourself right now, is this what needs to be in your life or be taking your attention and focus? I see a lot of no's coming because the boundary conversation is coming up a lot in my life and in other humans that I know. Like, what do you need to start to shift and change so that that's not actually in your field anymore?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to get wiped out.
Taken out at the knees. And
Taken out of the knees.
I feel you. And I love our conversations because we always go back and it's almost like we are in like the same vortex of energy. We're in different paths doing different things and we hold different energies, but we come together in so much commonality that I'm like on Monday this week, literally I said to Laura, I was like, something's going on in the energy. She's like, oh no, I agree. Like we could feel this shift of the energy moving through. And there's a lot of chaos in the world and we're seeing it happen and a lot more than ever before that's in our field. So the way we used to do life may not be relevant any longer for us. And the way we used to be in relationships or the way we used to parent our kids may no longer be relevant for us. So that discernment piece, those boundary pieces, that evaluation of like, is this important still? Is this meant for me still? Is such a key dynamic, I think, through our growth and evolution, especially over the next 6 months, I'm being told. It's going to be a pertinent dynamic for a lot of people.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. I think that's really powerful to even say and point out. And above anything, of everything, I would say, I still feel like that place where we take a time every single day to really lean in, tap in. You and I say tap in all the time, but like that idea of kind of tapping into your own energy field so that you can ask yourself the questions. Even if you don't know the answer, I think one of the most potent things that you can do is ask the questions like, what do I need today? What's coming through for me today? What do I need to pay attention to today? What's for me today? How do I actually feel about this? People will laugh about that. I ask that question, how do I feel about this, all the time? It'll be a little thing. Like you could ask me for, do you want to go for coffee at 2 tomorrow? And I will literally drop into a space where I'm like, oh, how do I feel about that? And then I kind of feel it. It's like, yes, no. And not that I wouldn't want to go for a coffee with a good friend. It's more like, is this actually where my attention needs to be going in this moment? Everything is looking different right now. And I think it's getting really simple as well. So even though there's more chaos in the world, I think that the default is complexity. And the gift of it, like the thing to really start to lean into more than ever, is how do you make your life so radically simple and sovereign for that matter?
Yeah. And I definitely want to lean into the sovereign conversation because it's been floating in my field. And obviously, the conversations I was having earlier today was around sovereignty because it just makes so much sense. But just closing off that loop, like the simplicity, it's like we've been conditioned, I think, as society to make things more complicated, to fill the gaps in our days, to especially in North America, like life
Mhm.
was different. I'm sure life was different in Ontario than it was when you moved to BC, because BC, there's a lot more grounding energy, allowed you to almost see a different dynamic to
Yeah.
life. Or Ontario was almost like, you got to keep up with the pulse. You got to keep up with, yeah, like, come on your merry-go-round again. You're on the same
Yeah.
fucking horse since you were the last 3 years. Like, fuck this horse, like, but that's what it is. And now, like, we've been conditioned to think we need to fill the time. And now you and I, granted, get this beautiful gift of being in Costa Rica and actually, almost force some days into Tico time because the
Oh,
Ticos live in Tico time. And it's almost like a whole other shift, but it's like, where do we find the balance now in our world to still impact and create and be curious and expand and activate, while
mhm.
also too breathing and realizing the connection we have with nature and that purity and bringing it back into those simple forms. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's cool.
it's true.
Mm-hmm.
My stepson is staying with us for the month of August, and he said it's weird. While I'm here, I feel like my whole sleep is changing. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean about that? And he's like, well, I came from Pacific Standard Time, but I'm wanting to go to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, yeah, you actually have to more or less live in relationship with the light and dark cycles. It's a 12-hour day here.
Yeah.
The sun goes down at 5:45 p.m. at night and it comes up at like 5 a.m. or something like that. So it's like you'll find yourself, the more you resist it down in the jungle here, the more stress you give yourself, and the more you just start to lean into what the actual cyclical nature here
Mm-hmm.
is, the light and the dark, the tide schedule, all of those kinds of things. Listen, if you resist it, suffering. If you go with it, it's been honestly, it's been tough. I mean,
Yeah.
people are like, really? You live in Costa Rica and it's tough. And it's like, well, yeah, in some ways. You come from a busy North American lifestyle. You drop into this, the energy is completely different. The pace is different, but not just in a hey, cool, relax kind of way. It literally is a intensity of energy that really asks you to come
Yes.
together with it. Like Pachamama, she is
Mm.
strong and fierce.
Yeah.
She will hold you, but she will also kick your ass.
Yeah.
I mean, this is off on a totally different tangent, but I will just say where you live in the world right now is deeply important. And not that you need to live in Costa Rica. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
But I will say, like everything else, staying with that whole idea of paying attention, the vibration of where you live in the world is important. So if you feel maybe worried, but you feel okay where you are, that's where you're meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're somewhere and you don't feel good on the land, you need to pay attention to that. It's important.
Yes. And so powerful too. And like when I moved here, literally all of a sudden I was like, why am I up at like the next morning? Like I flew in on a Thursday, Friday morning, I'm up. I'm like, why am I up at 5:30? Like, and I'm looking around and then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I tired at 8 p.m? And like right away, my body went into circadian rhythm, like
Yeah,
immediately.
immediately.
And I went, oh, this is a thing. Like, I didn't know this was a thing. Like, I didn't
Strong.
understand it, didn't know anything about tides and about the moon working with the ocean. And I was like, what? What is this? And why was I not taught this in school?
Oh, there's a long list of things you worked on.
I know. Go down that rabbit hole. But serious, but that is it, and really recognizing that. And I love that you brought that up because I think there's a lot of people out there forcing themselves to stay in environments in all different ways right now that are no longer serving their energy, their capacity, their impact, all of the things. That includes
Right.
their land, their relationships, their careers, their all things.
All the things.
Yeah.
It's all up to be shifted and changed or leaned into, whatever. Like, the things that are really for you will feel so deeply for you. And the things that aren't for you, you can't unsee or unhear the things that you know.
Yeah.
Again, good news and not really always good news.
Welcome to the lifespan of being a human. Ding, you got
Especially
your
right
ticket.
now.
I
Especially right
know.
now. I mean, you chose to be here as a soul. You chose to be here in this time. You have a very important role, your role in relationship to all the other humans on this planet and beyond. We have a role and it's really important. And I feel like sometimes, not sometimes, most times, we even just forget that. We think we're so insignificant,
Yes, we
right?
do. I
Yeah.
speak to this all the time, and this is like a movement in my energy field about your puzzle piece can't complete the puzzle. Like we
Mm.
need your piece. Like your piece is important, and whether you see that or not yet, trust me, it is. Like it just your vibration, you matter, all of those energies in you. Like whether it's how you show up in life and how you go grocery shopping or go to the market, or when you're at the gym, the impact you're making. Like not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, nor do they ever have to be. It's about
Right.
you and your
Yeah.
sovereignty, which I want to lean into now, because I think you just opened the door beautifully for us to have this conversation about like what does it mean for you in your energetics to be sovereign? Like how does that show up in life right now, especially because I don't know, 3 years ago I didn't really know the word sovereignty, and I still don't even really know how to spell it. Like half the time when I'm typing it up, I'm like, can someone spell check this for me, please? Because do I have the right N's and E's together? I don't even know.
Well, we can cover that off later.
Yeah.
But I will say sovereignty is to be self-governing.
Mm,
I mean, I like to always define something because who knows what we all think sovereignty means? It means to be self-governing. So really, it's just taking radical responsibility for your life. Other way to say it in my world right now would be, how do you want to exit the matrix? So, we talk about the matrix, or it's talked about, or this very complex system of the world,
mm,
the machine of industrialized nations, that complexity that makes you very unsovereign.
mm. Yeah.
You're connected in on many, many levels. And we think we're sovereign, right? Because we live in our house and we get in our car and we go here and we eat there and we buy and we choose our food. And like, we think that's sovereign. And we think, we get on an airplane, we go for a vacation twice a year, whatever those things are. But sovereignty really, for me, is to really walk my path,
Mm,
walk my path, walk the path that is meant for me in all ways. And because of my history and my values and so on, one of the ways I think about sovereignty is health. You
mm,
know, I mean, that's obviously been a big one in the last few years with mandating and people losing their sovereign right to be able to choose what goes into their body, and even just health disclosure and all those things. I mean, we've taken a huge, huge, massive hit. And if you really look back, I mean, this is where my 25 years as being a chiropractor, I can tell you it's been eroded and chipped away for years and years and years.
mm,
This is
mm.
16 podcast episodes right in this one. But I will say it shows up for me, to answer your question. It shows up deeply in sovereignty. So, for me here, I am always looking at, how do I make the investment in my health? You need to
Mm.
be strong as fuck right now.
Yeah.
Strong as fuck. You cannot be physically weak in this world right now. And I don't mean you need to be hard on yourself. I mean, you need to be lovingly compassionate, but you need to get your shit together. Pick up something heavy and keep lifting it. Like, we really do need to find our physical and energetic strength within ourselves. That's actually where health comes from. This level of dis-ease in our system. And that
Mm,
comes from even the things we talked about, not honoring your boundaries, not honoring your voice, not listening to your values, going against the things you know to be true. They all just chip away at that place
yeah.
within you. And then when you ask, like, why am I, my barn doors are swung right open for every virus and bacteria that exists on the planet, it's because you have not built yourself up. You need to be a freaking lighthouse. You need to be a
Yeah.
warrior with a really big heart and a strong back. And it's so damn important. Can you tell I get excited about this shit? Because this
Keep
is the thing.
going.
This is the thing we can all do every single day.
Yeah.
We can do this
Yeah.
every single day. And I
Yeah.
don't mean it can all be done in a day.
Yeah.
I just mean we have not been attending to the things that we need to attending. Not all of us. A lot of us are really sad, disrupted, PTSD, feeling very broken, emotionally so upset. And believe me, I fucking get it. I do. I'm not saying you don't have a reason for it.
Yeah.
but we have to be digging in and doing the work right now. Otherwise, where's our resiliency? Where's our ability to stand strong? Because if you don't build that up within yourself and you don't really start attending to the things that are asking for support in your body, eating well, moving your body, being really aware of, all those aspects of health, the first thing that's going to happen is you're not going to have sovereignty in your health, because you're going to have to be on dependent on a system that wants you dependent on it. So you have to extract yourself from that. That's just one example of it. But I think sovereignty in our health is, well, ask anybody who has had health challenges in the last couple of years. You can have many goals in life, but if your health is taken away from you, you have one goal.
Live.
You have one goal,
Yeah.
right? You have one goal with that. And then you get to the point where you're like, and now I need to be sovereign with my finances. And now I need to be sovereign in these other ways. But it's like, I'm telling you, we're not paying enough attention, right? Like to what we could be doing. We have control over so much of this, but we give it away all the time. I see it all the time.
Oh my gosh. And I do too. And I love that you brought this up, because even in my own world, like I was watching that shift for me and I went, no, we're not going here. Like, cause I came to Costa Rica at a certain kind of weight and body energy type. And I was good for a few months working in that. And I held that. And then something shifted in me where I reclused a bit and I stopped doing the things that really mattered, for me. I started eating more carbs, which are not like the bad carbs for my body. My body doesn't like them. My body's like, yes, feed me the pasta and I'll keep it on your gut. Like that's just the mech. I don't know where it learned this, but somewhere along the line, it decided this is what was going to happen. And I started to see, and it wasn't just about the weight, it was also about my capacity to hold energy, and I need to be more fluid in the work I'm doing, and my light language opening up and being able to hold it, but I needed the vessel to work with me so I could move it quicker when I'm in a certain state and I don't flow with my body, whether it's holding fat or there's toxicity in it or what it was. It's like it can't move the way it needs to move in my body. So I started with that heavy metal cleanse. Then I cut out alcohol, heavy metal cleanse, and then all of a sudden we started working out at the gym at the same time together, and we started that journey. And then I incorporated yoga. I started taking the supplements I desire again and really started moving through this field. Now everything, it's like light language moves through me so fast now. I'm channeling all different kinds of places, dropping into all different things. And it's not just about the light language for me, but it's about the expansion of energy and now being able to hold the wealth of all of it, not just the monetarily, but the energetic wealth, the wealth of remembering, the connection within us, like just all of that, right?
That is so true. It actually isn't about the weight. You said it, and I'm going to say it again. It's not about the weight. It isn't. It's about the heaviness of it.
Yeah.
You can say it that way. It's about the heaviness of it. In order for you to be that conduit, you need to have that clarity. And I can tell you, I can go to the gym on an ongoing basis and I might not look any different. Like it's not just about the difference of what I look like. Nothing shifts on the kind of the metrics of the scale and so on. But I can tell you on when I am in that lifestyle, and it's been a lifestyle for many, many years for me, but when I'm in that lifestyle and the few times that I've kind of like stepped off that train, the difference in how I move through the world is really it. It's not what I look like and any of those things. It's just how I move through the world. It's who I think I am, what I think I deserve, why I'm here. It's the mindset that really comes from it for me. So I love that you said that, and I've witnessed it in you. And even just in the potency of your work, they're so connected. They're so connected. And if you want to be, and if you want to have the ability to walk your path going forward, we definitely have to take back our health. I was just speaking to this incredible human in Costa Rica here, and she wasn't feeling well. And I said, well, do you have anything at home? Like, do you have any tinctures? Do you have any? She was like, no, I just ran out of vitamin C. I was like, well, do you have anything else? She was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like you need an apothecary. You need an apothecary. And if you're in Canada and you've seen the assault that's coming down on the natural health world, vitamins, supplementation, practitioners,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You might want to do some of that. So, I mean, that's only one part of sovereignty for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're watching our financial systems taking a beating in Canada, the United States, and other industrialized nations. Inflation is an all-time high. They're printing more money in Canada, the United States. 80% of all the money that's ever been printed in the history of fiat currency has been printed in the last 2 years.
It's crazy.
It's insane. And, by definition or by design, I would say we are taught to be unsovereign when it comes to our
Mm-hmm.
wealth and our abundance.
Yes.
What extremely wealthy people do, what large corporations do, what banks do, what any financial institution does is completely different than what we're all taught. We're all taught to do like RSPs and different things like that. And do you think the banks are investing in RSPs? They're not. Our fiat currency is not, our fiat currency is the currency that we use. United States dollar, Canadian dollar, the euro, all of these currencies, they are backed by nothing. They are backed by the confidence that people have in that currency, which
Just gonna laugh it out over here.
going down. So our currencies used to be backed by gold.
Right.
And then in 1971, Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard, and now they're backed by confidence. Jesus, that's a problem. And so, when you think about the BRICS nations, I mean, it's laughable, but it's not. And I didn't even realize, like, my grandparents bought me silver coins for my birthdays, and I didn't even know what it was. And I can remember my grandfather saying to me, like, this is sound money. Sound money. Some people call it God's money, silver and gold, precious metals. Over the thousands and thousands of years that it's been used, it is the most stable form of wealth that there is, because unfortunately the fiat currency is decreasing. A dollar is not worth a dollar. It's not even worth the paper it's printed on. And I say that not to freak people out, because we'll all roll with it.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to roll with it. You're going to figure it out. You'll move forward. But to sit in ignorance is a choice.
Yes.
Right? To sit in ignorance. This is the pay attention again. If you're paying attention, then I would say to someone, buy some silver and gold, transfer some of your money from the fiat form of currency to the sound money currency. So you're just taking it from one envelope to another, one that's backed by nothing. We call that fake currency, and one that's backed by the value of the precious metal. I will tell you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I would say, go listen to Robert Kiyosaki's podcast interviews on Rich Dad, Poor Dad podcast. He's had Jordan Peterson and different ones on there. They're really flipping good.
I can link them. I'll link them in the show notes so people can
just
grab
learn
them
a little bit about it.
Yeah.
So it's all to say, like, we have to just pay attention and not flip out or freak out about any of these things, but just recognize that we want to make ourselves independent of systems.
Yeah.
And so in all the ways that we can do it, like, how does it come up for you, the idea of sovereignty?
Yeah, like I feel like sovereignty for me is about being okay no matter what. Like, that's really the energy that I hold about it. So like, if I think about and lean into this energy, it's like, who do I know in my life that also creates sovereignty, that we create sovereignty together? So like, if shit hits the fan in Costa Rica, I know I'm going to your house because
now that we just announced that.
I'll bring a tent, I'll find one,
True.
I'll sleep a jack by the river, it doesn't matter. Because the stability you create in the life that you've chosen to live, and I love and appreciate that about you, and all the other things that I love and appreciate about you. But one of them is like, it's almost like being in your field reminds me of that consistently. And not that you've ever said it to me, but it's just a vibration you hold of like our exploration in this life. How do we exit the matrix? How do, like, one of my missions is literally collapsing conformity. Like, how do I bust you out of the box that you think you need to fucking play in order for you to go build your business so you can actually own your unique blueprint? Like, that is a form of sovereignty, taking your business back and holding it and doing it in a way that makes sense for you. So sovereignty really shows up in my field that way. but like your vibration of the health sovereignty and really aligning. And that's how I got into your field, was watching you through, I think it was like 2020, and watching you start to really speak to this. And I was like, whoever this woman is, I just love her. And then one day I saw your podcast, I think it was like in 2021. And I said to my girlfriend, Wendy, I'm going to be on her podcast one day. And then one day in 2023, now like we're friends, you're like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And I was like, fucking right. It only took 2 years to manifest. And you know, like, we got to clap some more time here, you know, but like, and it like worked out so well that way. But even the financial stuff, it's like, it's almost like I love watching you play in that field. And for those of you that don't know, Laura also runs a business and helps other people create financial sovereignty with gold and silver. And her links will be in the show notes for sure. If you're like curious about that, you can reach out to her that way too, because your knowledge has inspired me. And I'm like, shit, I have another to-do list of stuff, you know, like to lean into and work within, but not in a way of like heaviness, in a way of like, I actually am curious about life this way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love that, because you do that. You help people break out of the box that they placed around themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we think that it's been placed here by society, but we actually just place it around ourselves. And I mean, it's the reason why I actually ended up in Costa Rica, because our money was frozen because we supported the Freedom Convoy in Canada. We were, as you can well imagine, if you don't know me already, you would know I was already questioning things for quite some time. And we were figuring it out in our own way as a family. And that happened. And it was, pay attention.
What?
And we were like, oh, our corporate accounts have been frozen. This is a problem. And then unfrozen, while later, nothing. No apology, no conversation, nothing. Just, and I just was like, wow. And that, and the fact that I watched a girlfriend live in the States with her health status, her sovereign health status, and she was having a totally different experience. She lived in Arizona. And I've said this to her before, and she was kind of surprised by it. And I said, I watched you, and you and I were living parallel lives. You were down there and I was up in Canada, and she was doing this and I was doing that. And my life looked dramatically different because I was choosing to be part of what was going on. I'm not saying I was contributing to it, although I probably was in some unconscious ways. I definitely had a voice and, you know, that kind of stuff. But still, I was choosing it. And then I just decided, I'm like, I don't want to choose this anymore. And I know it's a privilege, but it's also a choice. And I think we have a lot more choices than we give ourselves. And again, I'm not making a plug for you need to move to Costa Rica. It's not about that. But there's always something. But why aren't you? No, I mean, like there's always.
Come enjoy the cool kids.
Come find the potency of the crystalline energy down here. But whatever that is, there's always something that we want or that we know we want to lean towards, and we don't do it. So we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing it. It's important. You know, you won't even know why it's important until you've done it. And then you're able to look back on it, and that's it.
Well, and you know, I listened this time. I was paying attention when Costa Rica dropped in. I knew it was started to percolate. I was going south somewhere, and I was preparing. Like in 2018, I moved to California, which was a whole other shit show. So this time around, I was looking to do this right, quote unquote, whatever the fuck right means. Like I don't even know what that is, but you know, maybe plan a bit more, maybe decide on some things. You know, maybe not be in last minute stuff where you're running around trying to move shit around. So I was like, okay, so at the beginning of the year of 2022, I was like, something's moving. I know it's moving. And I just started to take some actions, clean out some things, start to move some stuff. And then I think it was like March or April, it was like, you're moving to Costa Rica. And I was like, oh, I thought I was going to Florida. But I was like, okay. I like literally listened. I'm like, when am I leaving? In the fall of 2022. And I said, great, should I start selling stuff right now and moving stuff out? Yes, donating, getting it ready. So I started slowly to make that move. Like, what do I need? And I listened this time, which created a whole other like nice flow within stuff. Like it actually allowed me to build it, to find the right people to give stuff to, or to connect with people that needed, like, you know, I had a shit ton of stuff, like, and I didn't even realize how I'd become a hoarder after I got back from California, even though my house didn't look hoarderish, but I was like, I donated probably at least 12 garbage bags full of clothing to Goodwill. I was like, whoever goes into this Goodwill is going to have an amazing time. Like Lulu's with tags on it still, like just like crazy stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, what? And it actually started the journey for me of unpurging and disconnecting from the things I thought were important without me knowing. Like, when I
Right.
moved to Costa Rica, I knew I was coming here for a reason, but I didn't know the reason until I got here. And then I started teaching in November, my one of my potent activation programs. And one of the girls that had been in it a few times was like, I can't stay grounded in your meditations anymore. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, you're floating so fucking high now. Like your energy is so, and I went, oh, I didn't need, and I went, oh, wait a minute. And then I had an understanding and I started, oh, I'm supposed to be here to expand in this? What? And it started to move into that, but I wouldn't know. And just like I said on a program I was teaching yesterday, if I didn't own my psychic abilities in 2020 when I wasn't ready to own them, I was like, the marketing went out like a night with a psychic out into the world on social media and Facebook. And I was like, that's my picture, and I'm like, can I really own this? And I just kept hearing, you need to own this, you need to own this. I don't know where I would be today if I didn't step into that courage or trust and actually start to pay attention. So yeah, just thought I'd drop that through, apparently.
I could feel actually that was really important. So
Yeah.
clearly some people's on here are needing to hear that. And I might be one of them.
What?
This is all, yeah. What was that message for me? Yes.
Pay attention,
yes,
Laura.
Pay attention. Man, I am paying so much damn attention. You should see how slow I have to move through life now.
Hey, but kudos to you at the gym today. Like, seriously, you didn't wear anything on your arm and you were doing some exercises that you could with it. And I honor, like, no, but I honor you. Like, most people would never be at the gym after like 2 weeks potentially breaking their arm. We're not sure if it really was broken.
Yeah, I broke the radial head.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, definitely broken. But it's like not a bad break. And also, I will tell you this, it comes back to that is I didn't wait for somebody to treat my arm. I took the healing into my own hands.
Yeah,
and so we do that too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about how we do this in all sorts of things. We wait for someone to give us permission, or we wait for somebody to initiate something within us when we could just start it on our own, when we could just lean into it on our own, when we could just open the door to what's possible. And so when I ended up going into the acute care center, she said, I don't think you broke your arm. You're not in much pain. And I said, well, I've been treating it for the last couple of hours. She didn't really know what that meant, but it didn't really matter. Yeah, I had all sorts of homeopathics and so on. And I love that. I kind of like being a badass about things that I think we all know somewhere in our DNA structure. Like by design, these last 60, 70, I don't even know how many years, populations have been trained to be paying attention to the wrong things. Like you think back to what your grandparents or my parents knew. It's like they all knew how to raise animals and, grow vegetables and fix cars and like these skills, right? And instead, we've been like, things are happening over on the left and we're looking over at the right. And so what are we all doing? We're learning how to fix cars, grow food, like do the things that really we do have within us. So I guess that's the other side of it is like when you start to lean into these things that you really know are going to help you feel confident in who you are. And for me, it's going to be different than what it is for somebody else. But for me, it's planting medicinal plants and learning how to do those kinds of things. That makes me feel strong as fuck. Cause I'm like, I have a skill. I know it's important. I can help myself and I can help you. And it's that coming together. It's kind of like you said, your plan is I'm coming over to Laura's place if shit goes down. But it's true. Who's on your board of directors?
Yeah.
Like, who are those people that you're going to link arms with? It's probably going to be a really big community. But I think this is all a part of how quickly the world's changing right now. And this feeling that people have that they can't control what's going on around them. It's true. You can't, but you can control what's going on within you. And so I think the weirder that the world gets right now, that's what you pay attention to. The fact that you control things within you.
And, it's really funny. And like, we'll laugh about this, but this is actually true. So my job right now is to find more people that we can rely upon if shit hits the fan here. So when I go to Laura's, I don't just go to Laura's as me, like, hey, I can build a fire. Cause no, like her son can build fires. We don't need that skill. We need the skill of all the people that I know. That's the skill. I'm going to be like, dude, I got all our vegetables covered. I got all this covered over here. I met a guy down here that can make this happen. And you know, it's kind of funny in our collective of energy, people are like, oh, the butcher likes Colleen. I was like, guys, you don't understand how important this relationship could be later on. Okay. Like, let
I
me,
understand.
yeah, you get it. So I'm like, just let Colleen do her thing, find the people, keep that
Right.
ball moving in our field, you know,
It's true.
and kind of honor it, because that is actually a skill I have, and I do it all the time. Like intuitively, I do it. When I create a program, even the people that are meant to work together even drop into the program and they meet that way. And you
Right.
have that energy as well without even knowing it through your podcast.
Mhm.
Like how many beautiful people dropped into my field because we stepped into that space together. Or came back into my field,
Right.
which is so fun to see. But like that's like an asset I bring. I will work with my hands. I will sludge it out. I will do whatever it's going to take physically, and I will be able to hold the physical because I'm doing the work in my body now, and I can do that. But it's like almost like where do I excel in this space? And I'm leaning in more to that to honor it, where your knowledge and medicinal knowledge and the way that your brain thinks about all, like it's like a beautiful experience to watch. Like you're that resource for people. People can call you to be like, hey, I have this, and you're like, oh, have you thought about this? That's, you know, like that. And that
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
thing. So you're enhancing that with your land to serve that in your heart too. So for those of you out there that are like, I want to be a part of the Laura and Colleen community, what can you bring? Like I'm just joking, but find it in you. What is calling you forward? What are you really driving to learn more about? And if it's gold or silver, or if it's about sustainable living, or if it's about creating different infrastructures or geodomes or solar or dynamic, I don't know, like each of us is different
Right.
that way, but it's like really following that calling and really tightening it up in you. Like, it's like, yeah.
And I think too that a lot of times it's not going to make sense when you initiate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you start to do that thing, you might be thinking you're doing it for a hobby because
Yeah.
you don't maybe understand yet. You haven't been shown, you don't need to know yet where it's going to fit into the next stage of your life. Right? Like as we grow, as we ascend, as we expand, we get
Yeah.
activated into these new ways. Things have to shift around us because we're not that same person, which means
Mm-hmm.
all of that changes. And it is, I actually get curious to it now, but there was a time where I was very confused by it. I was
Mm.
kind of like, oh, I ran this program and now I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the woman who created that program is no longer here.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't want to run that program anymore. It doesn't feel relevant anymore. Or let's just think, about something else that I felt passionate about. I've always been someone who's really felt proud of the fact that I can dig in. I got staying power. I'm an
Mhm.
endurance athlete. And now I'm like, I really revel in saying no now,
Yeah.
not just to say no and not haphazardly or unconsciously, but recognizing that things are moving faster within me. And so will I be willing to trust that the thing that was a yes maybe 4 months ago or 6 months ago or 3 years ago is no longer, right? The
Yep.
thing you were passionate about is now your exit anthem.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun,
I
dun, dun,
know.
dun. It happens.
And
It
that's
happens.
and trusting that, that's the thing too, I think that we get all wrapped up in is there's some mornings I wake up, I'm supposed to be teaching a master class, but intuition's like, you need to move this. And I send out the email going, guys, we're moving it. It's happening next week instead, or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I lead in that energy and trust it. Some people, it may fuck them up because they're like, I'm super organized and I can't move through this. And I rattle some chains. I do. And I know some people listening to this podcast will be like, she totally rattles my chain. And I do, like, and I honor you. Like I really do. And in my field of work, I honor you. But it's like, if I'm going to force to teach, then I'm out of energetic alignment, which means you're not going to get anything from it anyways. So like, whether
Right.
it's in your schedule or not, right? So like really trusting that pull, and it may not make sense to us, but then literally the next week I'll go to teach it. And it's like, well, the astral alignment states blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fuck, I'm just teaching that today. Of course I am, and it's just like, I love this because it drops in every time, every single way, in all the ways. Like it is like what the universe is like, are you hearing this now? I'm like, dude, I hear you. I get it. Like, and I'm listening to that. And it's interesting how much I've grown there, and trusting it to be able to move
Mhm.
within that is like a really big thing that I'm working through still. Like the human side wants to be like, let's control. No, we're not controlling anything
Yeah.
anymore. Okay. Like, let's
Less
just
gripping.
relax. Yeah.
Less gripping, right? Less
Yeah.
gripping. And I
Yeah.
understand that a lot of people feel they need to grip right now because the natural tendency to do when you feel like your life has gone out of control, which a lot of us felt for sure. I don't know actually if
Mhm.
anyone didn't feel that on some level.
Yeah.
And so there is that natural inclination to want to grip harder when really the way through this is to soften, like hold things a
Mhm.
little bit lighter,
Yep.
just like very, very light in your hands. And it doesn't mean that you give up or that you give in. This is something I talked about today on my stories. It really is that you're not putting energy into wishing something was different than it is. That's it.
Yes.
It's just, there's a
Yeah.
lot of that. When are we going to go back? When are we going to go back? Yeah, no, there's no back. We always go
No.
forward.
Mhm.
So stop wishing it were different and just really taking that energy back so that you can see where your energy wants to go going forward.
That's powerful, and such an amazing, beautiful, like almost bringing this all together.
Bring it all together.
One thing I did on my stories today too is like I really feel like there's a lot of people still out there under their excuses now. No more fucking excuses, okay, guys? Like it's really time for us to step in and lead in wherever that is. The shit happening in your life right now is happening for you to move through. You're not supposed to fucking stay in this shit, okay? Just want to make sure I say that out loud. This is coming through.
Everyone get that? As I said, okay,
I
we
want to
got it.
complete my fucking thought process apparently. And I'm like, where am I moving into this masculine energy? Okay, it's time for us to keep flowing in our femininity that we were just in. Who the fuck is here? This is what's going on. Can you just say that to the podcast? Yeah, okay, we got it. Okay, we're good. Okay,
I
quiet
got
it
it.
down.
I got it. I trust that what we talked about today, and although we kind of took that thread and we were weaving it through, I definitely feel like all of these things are strong in a lot of people's fields. So they'll see the pieces that are for them. And
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate it because you invoke in me, you're an activator. I'm also an activator in a different way. I
Yeah.
activate different things. So do you. My soul sees you in that way. I so appreciate that in you. And I really love how you are working in the world. I think this work is so deeply important. And I see the ripples and it makes me happy and excited for humanity because even though this can feel heavy and even though there are components to this that feel deep or dark, there is a tremendous amount of expansion happening for you. And a lot of this has to do with how you're choosing to look at it.
Choice.
Choice.
So
Yeah.
potent. And everything you just said is just like the vibration of that. It's like every day we get to step in and choose what timeline do you want to play on? Where are you putting your energy? Yes, shit's happening in the world, but how are you stepping in now to move it? Like my girlfriend sent me a voice note the other day and she's like, oh my God, I'm getting messages about Corona and the fires and da da da. And I said, she's like, how do we move through this? You need to shine your fucking light brighter, my friend. And every day you wake up and you shine that light and you keep shining that light and you keep shining that light, even when it doesn't look like it's doing anything, shine it brighter. And that's how we change. Each person moving this through and owning, like you said, that sovereign energy, owning who they are, stepping in and not allowing all the bullshit that we've been taught to keep us conformed, but allowing us to expand through. And yeah.
Amen, Colleen.
Amen. So Laura, we're going to have all your information, whatever that is today, in the show notes for people to connect. And I love and appreciate my relationship with you in my life, in my energy, and all the things. And we're just getting started in this. So I like it, just like I only like met you, like I don't even know, like really met you like 6 months ago, let's say. But it feels like we've traveled numerous lifetimes already together. And I look forward to exploring that more, and for people to just even lean into your mission and how you're serving people in energy through Instagram, through all the things that you're up to. So
yeah. And if you want to come down and have a little taste of what it's like to be in the potency of Costa Rica, I have a retreat down in this area in February of 2024. And it's going to be, I'm just going to say it's going to be really damn awesome. So anyways, check out the show notes. And yeah, thank you, Colleen. Thank you. I feel so deeply the same. And I so appreciate your listeners and you and this time that we got to have together.
Yeah, me too. And seriously, I know so many people that have been to your retreats that speak amazing about them. You have a few of them happening over the next year. The availability will probably be somewhere on a link that we'll be able to connect
Yep.
into, or we'll
Yep.
just write the
For
dates
sure.
and stuff in the show notes too, in case you don't have all of it up and running yet. But like, guys, you're really wanting to make some changes in your life. I just urge you to start to make decisions that allow you to do that. And Laura's retreat is definitely one of them. So yay. So
Yay.
excited. All right, I'm going to hit stop recording or else we'll keep talking forever. So we'll see you guys all in the next episode. Thanks so much again, Laura. So how do I say I told you so without telling you I told you so, right? Such a beautiful experience. Laura and I could hash dynamics out in our world forever. Like, we sit in conversations and sometimes we're like, oh shit, we got to go. It's been 3 hours since we've been here talking, and all of it expands through us consistently all the time. And all of it allows us to see things differently. So, whatever you take from this dynamic podcast, take it, run with it, be with it, integrate it into your world, feel it in your heart, and allow yourself to really expand through this and take what you need from this podcast. As always, I'm just going to urge you to help us share it out, help connect into us. If something Laura said resonated with you, go and share that in her DMs. We are open people of expansion. We love talking sovereignty. We love moving through this. If you are interested in her retreat or learning more about gold and silver, contact her directly as well. She is building an infrastructure there with some other beautiful sovereign beings and helping really the collective of the energy move through this. So I'm excited. I'm excited for life, and I'm excited for the next guests that we have on. I'm excited for the conversations I get to consistently be having. And I'm so grateful for all of you in the world. And I'll see you guys all again soon. Have a beautiful day.